my name is Michelle and I'll be your yoga instructor today. This is going to be a Vinyasa based yoga class that focuses on splits, striving towards getting your front splits. Keeping in mind with this practice, the intention is going to be patience. Splits is a more advanced posture. It's not one we're going to get in one class or in 1 week. So with that, let's just enjoy where we're at in our practice today and meet our bodies where they are, not pushing too far into anything. If you want to take a moment to just roll your back out, option to use a yoga wheel like I have, or you can just roll it out on your mat just to wake up the body, getting ready to start our practice this morning. And when you're ready, you can meet me in seated, in crisscross, or kneeling. If you're in crisscross, feel free to rock out on the sides just a moment, just getting comfortable in our sit bones. We'll take a few breaths here, just rolling out the neck, waking up our bodies, getting ready for a little bit more movement, striving to reach the ears towards the shoulders, noticing the difference on how you feel rotating from one side compared to the other, not judging the sides, but just taking a notice to them. On your next inhale, we'll reach the arms to the sky and exhale down, forward fold. And coming back up to center when you're ready, and switching the legs to repeat on the other side. Inhaling to the sky, and exhale, forward fold. Inhaling the left arm back behind you, opening through the side body, and coming back to center, and reaching the right arm back behind you, opening through the opposite side body, coming back to center. We're going to switch legs again to repeat that again on the other side. Again, sending the left arm back, coming back to center, and sending back the right arm. Coming back to center, we're going to open up into a wide-legged straddle, inhaling the arms to the sky, and bending over the side body, reaching towards the toes. It's okay if you don't reach them. Coming back to center, reaching towards the opposite side body. Just noticing where you're at today. On your next inhale, we'll reach the arms out in front of you. Option to stay here or tiptoe the hands to the side body towards the toes, one way and then to the other side. Just trying to open up through the side of the back. Maybe you feel this on your sit bones, maybe you feel it in your shoulders, maybe you feel it in your thighs or your calves. Option to hang out in one side, taking a breath there, and going to the other. Really allowing yourself to take your time in this posture, floating from one side to the other, moving when your body tells you to, just enjoying where we're at. Inhaling and exhale, coming back to center, reaching for the toes, striving towards your pancake, not forcing your way into it, but just seeing where you're at. Maybe you're holding onto a block, maybe your forearms are planted, maybe your goal is to roll your shoulders back and keep your back as straight as can be. Just wiggling from side to side, spending some time in this wide-legged fold. When you're ready, you're going to bring your right leg in to your left inner thigh, allowing that left leg to stay straight. We're going to fold forward with just the one leg straight and the right leg curled in towards us. Taking a moment here to grab the base of the foot and slowly inching your way forward. Doing this a couple of times if you'd like. Just getting comfortable in your forward fold, allowing the stretch to really push into it rather than forcing yourself over. We're allowing it to glide with the foot as it extends down. Taking a moment here. Striving to reach the head towards the knee or the shin. Maybe towards a block, if that's in your practice. When you're ready, we're going to switch legs. Bring the left leg or the left foot to the right inner thigh, extending that right leg out. We're going to do the same thing on this side where we grab for the foot and try and inch it forward again. You have the option to do that a couple of times, and when you're ready, just hang out in your forward fold. If it feels kind of harsh to allow it to extend all the way down from grabbing the foot, feel free to grab a strap or a towel to give yourself a little extra length within your arms. And when you're ready, we'll do that one more time. Just enjoying your time here. And extending both legs out in front of you to a full forward fold. Maybe rocking in the pelvis, through the sit bones. Maybe you're pushing one foot in front of the other, back and forth, just allowing a little extra hamstring stretch. Maybe you're reaching for your calves or your knees. Maybe you're just working on keeping your back flat and keeping your shoulders from being hunched over. There's lots of options that you can be working towards within your forward fold, whatever feels best for you. Eve's taking her time to try and get a little bit of playtime in. On your next inhale, we're going to come all the way back up into a seated position, getting ready to come into a seated half happy baby, reaching for the foot, bending the knee and trying to push that knee back behind you, opening through the hips. Taking some time with the right leg. Feel free to wiggle and move in and out of the motion before going to the left leg and repeating on that side, trying to push the knee back behind you in a seated half happy baby. Once your hips feel nice and open, feel free to meet me in a tabletop position with your hips at a 90-degree angle and your shoulders at a 90-degree angle. Taking some time here to inhale, drop the belly, and exhale, dropping the head, rolling through the shoulders, moving in and out of this in a cat-cow. He's really trying to play at this time, but just taking some breaths here, moving in and out of the position. Maybe coming into a puppy pose for a nice back stretch, pushing the arms out in front of you. Breathing into the stretch, trying to get your chest closer to the floor. And when you're ready, you can come back into a kneeling seated position. Coming into a bit of a wrist warm-up, option to roll out the wrist clockwise and counterclockwise. Taking a moment here, just allowing your wrists to wake up before we use them. Maybe you pop your wrist if that's in your practice, before folding your fingers down towards the floor, and then opening your palm up towards the ceiling, doing this one hand at a time to allow your other hand to support the hand that's being stretched to go into a little bit of a deeper stretch. Pulling one finger at a time, or maybe pulling all fingers back at once before doing a little bit more of a wrist rotation. On your next inhale, we'll plant the hands on the floor in front of you, rocking over the wrists, stretching them out a bit. Option to stay here or flip one hand back towards you, stretching the top palm of the hand up towards the sky, and switching to the opposite hand, rocking over this again, just allowing the hand to stretch in a different direction. Opening the palms onto the floor, fingers out away from each other, rocking side to side, before turning the fingers towards each other, flipping the palms up to the sky, continuing to rock, stretching those wrists. Coming back to kneeling, we'll stretch those wrists one more time before coming back to our tabletop position. We'll go through a little bit more of a cat-cow before we'll come into our next section of our practice. Inhaling here and exhale. Inhale. Option to come into a drunk cat-cow, curling to the side bodies, deepening our cat-cow just a little bit, bending the elbows as you move, going clockwise and counterclockwise. When your back feels nice and stretched, we'll come to a kneeling position to stretch our ankles and feet just a little bit, bringing the right foot up, curling the toes, only adding a little bit of pressure, whatever feels best, to stretch those toes before curling them the other direction and allowing you to stretch them backwards, placing them flat on the ground and lifting through the heel to stretch over the top of them. Again, only putting as much pressure as you're comfortable with. Flip back over the tops of the toes to stretch the top of the foot, rocking slightly, making sure to only allow as much pressure as feels good for you. This is your practice, so don't do anything that doesn't feel comfortable. We're going to go to the other side now, lifting the left leg up, rocking over the toes on the top of the foot before flipping the toes flat and lifting off the heel to rock over them, flexing through the foot. Doing this a few more times. Only going as deep as feels good for you. Flipping back over the top of the foot. Rolling ever so slightly through the heel and ankle. And then holding steady and rocking with the whole leg to feel it through your toes and up your shin. On your next inhale, we'll come to a Malasana squat. Coming to a prayer hands. You have the option to grab a block if it feels better for you. Whatever's best for your practice. Not pushing too far, but just trying to feel comfortable and being able to open through the hips. Coming to prayer hands. Pressing through the knees. Taking a few more breaths here. Just enjoying this time that you're giving yourself. Thinking about the intentions you have for your practice today. And allowing the space for that. On your next inhale, we'll send the hips high into a wide-legged forward fold before sinking back into Malasana. We'll do this a couple more times. Into a forward fold, wide-legged, and back to Malasana. Trying to move with your breath between Malasana and wide-legged, focusing on your heel placement as you point your heels outward in wide-legged and then bring them in as you're in Malasana, allowing for this rotation to be felt up the legs, in the thighs, in your hamstrings. Noticing how this feels within the different positions. Within your wide-legged fold, you're going to inhale the right arm to the sky, taking a moment here to stretch through the side body before you plant the hands, and inhale the left arm to the sky. Allowing this stretch to move through your shoulders and your rib cage before planting the hands down together again. Option to stay here, or if it's in your practice, try and reach your hands back behind your heels, seeing how far you can go. Before coming into a twist, we'll sit down in Cowface pose. You can see in this how I'm twisting from wide-legged, planting the knee, and then leaving that right leg over the top of the left, coming into Cowface pose. You can leave your arms at your side, or if it's in your practice, you can bring your arms to eagle arms. Whatever feels best for you. Maybe we go through a few cactus arms, stretching through the shoulder blades, before coming into eagle arms. Again, if you don't want to come into a full eagle arms, you're welcome to keep your hands by your feet or on your hips, maybe on your knees, whatever feels best for you. On your next inhale, we're going to send the hips back up into wide-legged, twisting to the other side, and taking a seat in Cowface pose. Reaching for the feet, noticing the difference of the two sides, not putting judgment from one side to the other, but just noticing where your practice is at today. Again, option to leave your hands where they are, or we can come into a cactus arms before optional eagle arms on the other side. Whatever feels best for you. This is your practice, so take whatever you need from it. Inhaling and exhale. When you're ready, coming into a tabletop position. Sending the hips back into a down dog. Allowing a micro bend in the knees. Lifting off the toes, maybe pedaling out the feet. Our goal here is more of a flat back than it is to have straight legs or heels on the floor. So definitely feel free to have that nice bend in the knees to allow to get that nice straight spine that you're striving for. Down dog so beneficial for helping with spinal alignment. It's a great way to release tension and allow your vertebrae to decompress after a long day of standing. From here, we're going to go through a few rounds of a chaturanga to vinyasa. This is a modified version. So we'll start in our down dog, then work our way forward, shifting the hips, coming into a high plank before wrapping the elbows towards the rib cage and lowering into a low push-up. From here, you're going to push up into an up dog. As you shift forward, you're going to flip onto the tops of your feet, and then when you're ready to shift back into down dog, you'll flip back onto your toes, sending the hips back and coming into your down dog. We'll do that one more time. From down dog, shifting forward into a high plank. This time we'll go through a little bit of a modified version on the knees, so feel to drop the knees down, roll the elbows to the ribs, and lower the chest all the way to the floor, sending the shoulders slightly forward to chest level, coming into Sphinx pose, holding here, reaching through the spine before pulling the knees forward, sending the hips back and pushing back into down dog again. Holding here for another breath. Inhale and exhale, stepping the left foot forward, planting it, and then stepping that right back foot at a 45-degree angle, sweeping the arms up, coming into warrior one pose, Holding here for a breath, trying to sink forward into that front hip, keeping the hips closed. Inhaling here. And on your exhale, we're going to open up into a warrior two posture, opening through the hips, putting that back left leg or back right leg onto the same railroad track as the left, and extending the arms out in front and behind you. On your next inhale, we'll drop that left arm down, coming into extended side angle, leaving that right arm towards the sky, holding here for a breath, keeping that front knee bent. And when you're ready, you'll bring that back foot slightly forward, straightening through the front leg and coming into triangle pose. Noticing how this feels in your hamstring, in your hips. Option to have your hand flat on the floor, on your shin, maybe on a block. Whatever feels best for you. This is your practice. So whatever will benefit you the most is what you should strive for. Holding here for a few more breaths before coming to center, shifting the feet onto two railroad tracks and coming into pyramid pose. Both feet should be facing forward, and you're trying to flatten through the back and open through the hips, gazing towards the toes. On your next inhale, we'll drop that back left knee, coming into a low lunge, shifting the hips forward, leaving the top of the foot flat on your mat, and shifting back, coming into a half split, moving in and out between your low lunge and half split, holding for as long as it feels good to you. As you shift the between, moving slowly, flexing and unflexing your foot, noticing how that feels in your tendons as your foot shifts, shifting forward from that low lunge into a high lunge, dropping the knee back down, reaching the arms to the sky, taking one more moment here before shifting and preparing for pigeon pose, walking that front foot over to the side of your mat, striving to get that knee onto the floor, keeping the hips straight. If that means that they aren't flat on the ground, that's okay. And folding forward into a resting pigeon. Taking your time here. Inhale. And exhale. Option to stay here, or you can start activating that back leg, lifting it off the ground, activating through the hamstring, through the calf, through the foot. Noticing how this feels from your front leg to your back. Pushing back up into a pigeon pose, reaching for that back leg. Option to prepare for pigeon 3 if it's in your practice. Or you can stay here and just pulse your foot if that's where you're at today. No pressure. If you're wanting to continue, you can hold that foot into your elbow, reaching your right arm to the sky, bending the elbow and trying to grab for your other hand, coming into a bind. Option to stay here for a moment, and when you're ready, you can release out of it. On your next inhale, we'll send the hips back, sending the leg back and coming back into a down dog for another breath before we repeat on the other side. Shifting forward into our vinyasa, into up dog, and sending the hips back into down dog. When you're ready, we'll take that right foot forward this time, coming into warrior 1 on the other side, planting that back leg at a 45-degree angle, arms to the sky, hips closed, keeping the legs on 2 railroad tracks. Taking a moment here, really pushing into that front knee before opening into warrior 2 on the other side, popping that back leg into the same railroad track as the front, opening through the hips and gazing over that front arm, arms outstretched, before winding down into an extended side angle on this other side, arms to the sky. If you want to block here, you're welcome to grab one, whatever feels best. And on your next inhale, we'll straighten that front leg, bringing that back leg slightly forward, coming into triangle pose. Option for a block, a shin, or the floor, whatever feels best for you. Holding here. And on your next inhale, we're going to shift that back leg forward, closing the hips, coming into 2 railroad tracks again, coming into pyramid pose. The goal is to try and straighten through your back and keep the hips tall. When you're ready, drop that back leg down, coming into a low lunge on the other side. We're going to move between this low lunge and a half split again, taking your time, moving with your breath, moving between the 2 pieces. If it's in your practice, feel free to wiggle out your toes within your half split, noticing how that feels in your tendons on this side, what feels better, flexed or pointed, not judging one or the other, but just noticing how they feel. Again, flowing from your low lunge into your half split. If it's in your practice, feel free to take a moment on this side to lift up into a high lunge when you're ready, or just come into your pigeon, whatever feels best. Taking a moment in your pigeon before folding into a resting pigeon pose. We're going to do the same thing on this side. You have the option to stay here in a nice comfortable resting pigeon, or you can start pulsing that leg behind you, lifting it off the ground, engaging through your tendons, through your hamstrings, your hips, your feet. When you're ready, you can press off the ground, coming up into your pigeon again. Option to pulse through your pigeon with your foot up, or if you want to prepare to come into a pigeon 3, if it's in your practice, feel free to do so. Taking your time here. I'm just trying to get in frame so you can see me better. So here we are, pulsing that back leg within the resting pose. And you can practice this pulse laying flat or with your back extended in more of a seated position, preparing for the pigeon 3. I like to go through both variations. One just adds a little bit more back flexibility. The other focuses on the tops of the thighs and the backs of the thighs. When you're preparing for pigeon 3, you're going to try and get your foot into your elbow pocket, extend the other front arm above you, bending it back behind your head and trying to interlock your hands. Balancing through the hips and trying to gently release out of the pose instead of just flinging out of it. If you fall out of it, that's totally okay. And when you're ready, we'll meet back in a down dog. We'll go through one more round of Vinyasa here, shifting forward into a high plank, option to drop the knees, wrap the elbows, pushing into an up dog, and flipping the toes, sending the hips back into down dog, pedaling out the feet, taking some time here. When you're ready, I'm gonna turn around and face you so you can see me better, and we're gonna come into a seated straddle split where your left leg is extended out in front of you and that right leg is bent, where your knee is bent and your foot is kind of hugged back towards your butt behind you. We're gonna forward fold over that front leg, taking some time to wiggle your toes forwards and backwards just to get the stretch with both flexed and unflexed tendons and muscles. When you're ready, we're going to repeat that on the other side, extending the right leg out in front of you coming into a seated straddle split, and forward folding over that front leg with the left leg back behind you. Taking your time here, wiggling your toes forwards and backwards, stretching through the foot, and striving to reach your head towards your knee or shin. At this point in our practice, we're going to sit within where our splits are at today for a few moments. So if you want to grab a block or two, depending on where you're at, we're going to sink down into our splits, not trying to force from where we aren't, but just stay where we're comfortable today. And wherever that is, you're going to use your block, whether at your highest, medium, or lowest level, to be able to hang out for multiple minutes in this position so that there's not extra stress put on you from trying to hold yourself up from where you can't sink lower, but that you have that support under you and you're able to sit within the posture a little bit longer. Holding here, your goal here is to try and keep your hips closed, stretching through the front and back leg, noticing where your pressure points are and trying to soften. When you're ready to come out of this posture, if you feel ready, feel free to come back to kneeling and then step that right leg forward to repeat on the other side. Again with your block, starting at the highest level and slowly working your way down to wherever is most comfortable for you. Trying to keep your hips closed. Inhaling and exhaling, making sure to not hold your breath in these postures. Sometimes they can feel pretty tight and challenging, but to just continue breathing through it, trying to loosen as you go. Whatever feels good. Not trying to overstretch or overextend, but meeting your body where you are today. Not having high expectations, but just being appreciative of giving yourself this time on your mat. When you're ready, you can maybe lower that block a little if it's in your practice, or if this feels like it's too much, you can come out of the posture a little bit, whatever feels best. If you want to meet back and seated, hugging the knees to chest, we're just going to roll on our backs a little, taking a second. That was an intense stretch for us, and we're going to roll on our back with the knees hugged to chest, giving the hamstrings a break. Maybe you roll all the way back up to seated. Maybe you're staying closer to the ground. Whatever feels best for you. Just rolling and rocking, hugging the knees, being grateful that you set the time aside for your day today. Maybe you rock left to right or forwards and backwards. There's no wrong way to do it with your practice. When you feel called to, feel free to release your legs straight to the sky, rolling out the ankles, flexing and unflexing the feet. On your next inhale, you're going to reach for that left foot, bending it back behind you, getting your foot closer to your hip, and just hanging out in this position, stretching through the hip flexors, feeling that on the tops of the thighs. If it's too intense for you to lay fully flat, you can put your elbows down or your hands down, or you can start seated, bending the knee back to your hip, work from being seated and slowly start lowering down closer to the floor, stopping wherever your body tells you to, striving to keep the knee closer to the ground. It's okay if it comes off the ground a little. Don't force anything that doesn't feel good. Just striving to sit where there's a little bit of stretch but no discomfort. Inhaling here. And exhale, release the leg down, repeating on the other side, extending the right leg up to the sky. We'll meet both of them there again, reaching the right leg, bending it back to your hip, and stretching the left leg out in front of you. Again, if this is too intense, feel free to come up off the floor, coming onto your elbows or hands, whatever feels best. Stretching through the hip flexors and the tops of the thighs. If it's in your practice to lay flat on the ground, by all means do so. Or if it feels a little uncomfortable, you can always grab a pillow to put underneath of you to just add a little bit of elevation. When you're ready to come out of that posture, we'll meet into a wide-legged forward fold one more time for today. Coming to our left and rights, tiptoeing from one side to the other. Just seeing how far we can reach forward, moving slowly from left to right, and then meeting in center. Striving to reach the head towards the mat. If it doesn't reach, that's totally okay. You could grab a block to try and reach your head closer to the block if that's a more realistic goal. Maybe plant your elbows down, trying to reach your pelvis to have more of a tilt. So this is less about a back stretch and more about the tilt of your pelvis to get you closer to the floor and closer to your pancake. On your next inhale, we're going to reach over to the right side body and then to the left before meeting in the center, striving to get your head as close as you can to your block or to the floor. Sweeping back to the right side one more time. And then bringing the feet together into a forward fold. Let me rearrange you a little bit. We're coming to the cool down and ending of this yoga flow today. So if you'd like to meet lying on your back, bringing the knees to your chest one more time, we're going to rock side to side and slowly start trying to make a full circle with our spine, pulling the knees to chest and to the left and right. Going clockwise and counterclockwise before coming into happy baby, lying on the ground, rocking from side to side. Maybe you extend one leg out and then the other as you rock, striving to get your knees closer to the ground and opening through the hips. If you feel called to, feel free to bring your legs together, reaching back into plow pose, striving to get your feet closer to the ground behind you, if that feels good. If not, you don't have to go all the way back. Just go as far as you're called to, rolling through the spine. Maybe the toes touch the ground, maybe they don't. That's okay either way. There's no wrong way here. As long as it feels good and isn't hurting, you're doing it perfect. I like to grab for the calves here, just above the knees, to help pull the legs a little closer to my chest. And then from there, I like to rock back onto the floor, allowing each vertebrae to melt to the floor one at a time. Moving slowly. Really taking your time here and noticing how you feel now compared to at the start of your practice. Recognizing that you did this for yourself today. And slowly dropping the legs flat to the floor. We're going to end in Malasana today. Option to have the hands open towards the sky or down towards the earth. Whatever feels best for you. Relaxing through the eyebrows, through the mouth, and the jaw, the shoulders, and the rib cage, allowing deep belly breaths. I hope you enjoyed your practice today. I'm going to leave you within this posture so that your meditation can continue as the class ends. Inhaling and exhaling, relaxing through the knees, the ankles, allowing the feet to split out to the sides. You guys did great today. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.